Hey, welcome back. One thing I didn't mention in my monologue was that the Democracy Fund, the registered civil liberties charity with whom Rebel News has been working this past year, they have dispatched lawyers to Ottawa to assist any trucker or any other peaceful protester that is being abused by police. Part of me thinks it's just a scare tactic to scare away more peaceful protesters and appease the locals. But Justin Trudeau has told us in plain English, I mean, why would you not believe him, that communist China is the country he most admires, quote, because of its basic dictatorship. So there are Democracy Fund lawyers on the ground there, and you can learn more about that at thedemocracyfund.ca. But besides Democracy Fund lawyers, we also, of course, have our Rebel News reporters. Our friend Ezra Levant is on the ground. So is Lincoln Jay, and others are going there, including our old friend David Menzies, who's back in full force. But let's join in now from the streets with our friend Lincoln Jay. Lincoln, how you doing there today?
Good, Ezra. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on.
I'm great. It looks frosty. Is it still minus 20?
It's freezing out here. I don't think I can reiterate enough how cold it actually is. You take your gloves off for a second and it's freezing, but it's not stopping people from coming out here, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, that's quite something. I mean, if the weather were warmer, I think there would be 10 times as many people there. I mean, you forget how cold minus 20 is. When you're a kid, you're out playing in the snow, you don't care, but holy moly. A lot of the protesters are living in the cabs of their trucks, so they're not actually milling about. It's hard to mill about when it's minus 20. You just don't want to be out at great length. And I think that's one of the reasons why the protest is so calm and why the Ottawa police statement is so weird. It's not like you have marauding bands of wild youths going through the city like the BLM riots in America last year. Everyone's pretty much just on Parliament Hill and staying warm in their trucks. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, there's teams of people bringing around gas so that they can't keep the trucks running all night to stay warm. So yeah, all those truckers, they're sleeping in the back of their cabs. They're dedicated. They're here to stay. That's for sure. There's been rumors that there's hotel rooms provided for them to shower and see basic food and stuff. Other than that, they're in the trucks.
Now, we hear those honking trucks go by, and I think that's really what it is all the fancy pants in, the imperial capital, who are used to their luxurious life. Everyone there, not a single person in politics lost a day's work, or they probably lost work, but they didn't lose pay. They probably took a lot of time off. They got pay raises. MPs themselves gave themselves pay raises twice during the pandemic. MPs have had 2 pay raises during the pandemic. No one's lost work. The lobbyists have had a feast. They just don't like all these unwashed blue-collar people coming into their turf with their noisy horns. I think it's the honking. I think they're just irritated by the presence of blue-collar workers who don't obey them. I think it's sort of wonderful that they're irritated, and I don't think that's a crime or dangerous.
Yeah, you know what? We can speak to actual locals here, and they are supporters, but we've actually been speaking to some locals on the street. Ezra Levant has a good video coming out where she's speaking to people who are around the area, who are from Ottawa, and aren't exactly participating in the protest, but she's able to gather their thoughts. And yes, there is some people that are very unhappy, but half of the people that she interviewed had no problem with it, and they were waking up with horns honking and everything, and they're still in support. So I think you have a valid point when it's just kind of the political class and the elites and the establishment that have an issue with this.
I can't quite recognize the exact street you're on. I used to live in Ottawa. I worked in Parliament for a couple of years, if you can believe it, in the last century. For Preston Manning, I was his assistant. You're probably in a very highly dense political place, but you go a few miles out to suburbs, to regular Ottawa. Not everyone in Ottawa works in Parliament. And the truckers aren't honking in residential neighborhoods. I mean, there are some downtown apartments, it's true. But this is a very focused, peaceful protest. The way those Ottawa police tweets read, you would think it's BLM and Antifa burning down a city center like they did in America.
Yeah, and when you speak to the police officers on the ground here, they don't fully say it, but you can tell that I would say the majority of them are in support about what's happening here. They're giving high fives to people, and they're saying it's a peaceful protest, and I think a lot of them are going to be very disappointed if they have to use excessive force or whatever the case may be to try and end this demonstration, because the complete vibe I've gotten on the street here is that the police officers are, for the most part, in support. I had a police officer actually help me get through a barricade when I was returning my rental car yesterday, and he looked at my hat, saw the hat, he said, "Rebel News," and I said, "Yeah, are you a fan?" And he said, "I can't answer that," and then winked at me. So.
You know, it's true. I mean, you were with me, I think, when I walked up to some cops, and I was pretty mad seeing all these out-of-town cops, Toronto cops, Durham regional cops, and I went up to them mad, I won't lie, and they couldn't have been friendlier. I mean, I was sort of expecting them to get into an argy-bargy with me, but they just said, no, we're just here to keep the peace, and I have to say they were, and I'd have to check this, Lincoln, don't quote me on this, but I think the Ottawa police have not enforced a vaccine mandate. I don't think they've fired their unvaxxed officers. So that shows you that the police union in Ottawa, frankly, if they could speak candidly, they would be with the protesters. I saw this morning an email sent around to the Canadian Armed Forces to every soldier saying, don't tweet your support, you'll be reprimanded. So you just know that a lot of these guys who are being called on to punish the peaceful protesters, cops and possibly soldiers, they're actually standing with the protesters. Quite something.
Yeah, and like you said, so they're bringing in different squads. Like you saw, they're bringing in different squads from all around, from Toronto, Durham, we've seen Hamilton, London police, and like I said earlier, the vibe that I'm getting is that they're almost happy to be here. You know, although they can't clearly stand with the people. I feel like they're almost happy to be a part of this historic moment.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we saw the mayor of Ottawa complaining that he's spending $800,000 a day on policing. And I understand that the city or the police, I'm not sure which, has bought up every available hotel room downtown to make it impossible for people to come into the city. That's got to be $1 million a night, too. So those are not the protesters incurring those costs. That's a foolish mayor trying to appease Justin Trudeau. Or maybe it's Trudeau that's paying for it through the public safety ministry. Who knows? So you have all these out-of-town cops who have flown in there. They're on overtime. They're getting special pay. They're overtime pay, all their accommodations. But you're right. It's like they're on sort of a road trip, having fun at the protests, too. So far, God forbid they actually start swinging truncheons like that police chief said. I don't believe that's actual policing. That was a Trudeau speech put into police language. That's not a real police speech. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I can't comment on enough. Everything is just, you can feel that the tensions are kind of getting a little bit higher. People are sort of anticipating something is coming. I think we all know that something is coming. Trudeau, it's who knows what has planned, who knows what's going on behind the scenes, what is orchestrating behind the scenes, but I think everyone is just kind of heightened right now. There's supposed to be a ton of people coming here tomorrow. There's supposed to be farmers coming with tractors, so I don't know if they're going to put, if they're going to put barricades or what they're going to do, what tactics they're going to use, but as of right now here on the scene, it's been like how it's been for the past week. There's a little bit more undercover cops or undercover cruisers, but that's about it. Other than that, it's like business as usual as far as the truckers convoy, so we'll see.
Yeah, and well, that goes to my theory that maybe some of this was just for public consumption to A, scare away people, and B, shut up the local wokesters who don't like the unwashed truckers.
So see people just handing out gloves to me right here just for being outside. That's the environment here.
Yeah, it really is a festival feeling. Well, that's exactly how it was when I was there. I'm going to see if I can get there this weekend. I'm not sure if I can break away to go there. Very interesting times. You're there. Our friend David Menzies, if he's not there already, he's arriving shortly. Some lawyers from the Democracy Fund are there. I'm glad, because if something goes sideways, I want them there. You know, I want to tell you a joke. If you say the farmers are coming, if those farmers blockade avocados, you know, the woke breakfast is avocado toast. By the way, it's delicious. I'm not knocking it. But if those farmers could cut off the avocados to Parliament Hill for just 24 hours, Trudeau would rescind every lockdown and every vaccine mandate, because those woke hipsters who are shouting at the truckers, and, oh, stop honking your horns, you take away their avocado toast, Lincoln, and they'll fold like a cheap suit.
maybe you take away shampoo imports for Justin Trudeau, and that's what it'll take to end the mandate. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, how you doing otherwise? You obviously found a place to stay, and how long are you going to be down there?
I'm willing to stay as long as it takes. It's like I said, it's unprecedented what's going on here. So we don't know if it's going to take days, weeks, or what's going to happen. But almost every trucker I've spoken to says that they're not leaving anytime soon. Almost every supporter that I've spoken to has said that they're not leaving anytime soon. So it's going to be really interesting what's going to happen here. You know, from the sounds of it, again, like you said, it could be scare tactics. Nobody knows, right? Yeah. So if it was my best guess, I would say that they are going to start to implement some sort of procedure like like what we saw earlier, tweeted out by the Ottawa police. So who knows? We're going to see, and I'm here to cover it.
Very interesting. Well, listen, keep it up. You're going to be joined by a bunch of other rebels this weekend. If they're not already in place, they'll be coming over the next few hours. We're going to have the largest team on the ground. It is true, obviously, that CBC, CTV, and the rest of the bailout media have more people than Rebel News does. Obviously, it would be ridiculous to claim otherwise. But we will have more people actually amongst the truckers, actually on the street, showing what it actually looks like. And, of course, our friends at the Democracy Fund will be there on the lawyers' side. So between the two entities, Rebel News and the Democracy Fund charity, I think there will be a significant force for freedom there. And, Lincoln, you're obviously the pointy edge of that spear. Stay safe. All your vids will be compiled at convoyreports.com. We'll also be crowdfunding there to help cover the costs of your hotel and food and stuff like that. Keep it up. Thanks for joining us today, and stay warm.
Thanks, Ezra. Thanks for having me on.
We have Lincoln J., one of our half dozen or so reporters who is on the ground or will very shortly be on the ground in Ottawa at the Trucker Rebellion. I don't even want to say rebellion anymore because I want to emphasize how peaceful it is. The bizarre language in the police chief's tweets and speech suggests that they're violent, dangerous, and hateful. The only thing that meets that test in Ottawa is the Prime Minister himself.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.